What would it look like if instead when you went down to the voting place, there wasn't someone trying to jam a blue or red piece of paper in your hand, but instead showed you the ballot paper and told you a little something about each of the parties that you could vote for? Yesterday, I gave it a crack.
This is the ballot papers that you get when you get in there, and if you want to know anything about any of the parties, I can tell you a little something. Like for instance, perhaps have you heard of the Animal Justice Party or Australia's Voice? Australia's Voice is a new party. Most people haven't heard about it. It's formed by Fatima Klyman, who was a former Labor minister, but she split off from them when they had a vote on Israel-Palestine. She didn't like the way they went, so she made her own party. Or perhaps you want to know about like Gerard Rennick's party. He was a former Liberal guy that split during the COVID times. So like for instance, have you heard of the Animal Justice Party before? It might be something you like. Essentially just think of it as like it's vegans, but they're a political party. But they've got more than just animal rights issues. They do economics and defence as well. Or like Australian Christians Party is on the other side of the spectrum, but they want a smaller government, but they also want like Christianity in schools. Trumpet of Patriots is just the UAP rebranded. It's run by Clive Palmer. Yeah, that's the Trumpet of Patriots. He runs that party. Or have you heard of Fusion Party? That's a party that's on the left. And they're a combination of the Sex Party, Pirate Party, Climate Action Now Party.
I had a sign that said unbiased political information, mostly, and I think I did a pretty good job at keeping my bias to myself. And I wonder if this is something that people would prefer. I mean, do you want 10 people trying to convince you at the last moment to vote for their team by reading a bunch of promises on a piece of paper? Or would you rather hear a little bit about each of the parties? Obviously, I think this is a better way of doing it. I got to teach a first-time immigrant how to vote properly, where he could vote 6 above the line or 12 below, but not both, and how his preferences matter, not the parties, because we got rid of group voting tickets back in 2016. The party's preferences are just a suggestion. They're basically a sign of allegiances and it kind of have no impact at all. And I had a couple people come back and say, hey, thanks for what you're doing. And I even had one guy tell me I should start a YouTube channel, which I thought was pretty funny. I didn't tell him. Now, one thing you may have noticed at any polling place is the abundance of advertising. Not from all 32 federally registered parties, just the main 2 parties. That's because they received the vast majority of first preference votes. And for every first preference vote a party gets, they get $3.35 of your taxpayer dollars to go towards their political advertising campaign. Here is a list from the AEC website that shows the breakdown of taxpayer dollars distributed by the AEC to each of the parties and independents based on the number of first preference votes. Now, in order to be eligible, a party/candidate has to receive at least 4% of the vote in any electorate. That's kind of to stop the small-time one-off candidates from getting your money, but make no mistake, this taxpayer funding of private corporations' advertising campaigns mainly benefits the big players and ensures that you only ever hear about them.
You actually need optional voting. I didn't used to support optional voting because I thought, no, everyone voting is a good thing. It creates stability. But unfortunately, that stability has become stagnation. And it's that the major parties capitalise on the ignorance and the apathy of many Australians who, quite rightly, and I totally get it, I can empathise with this, can't stand politics. They just go up, they don't want to vote, they go up, they'll either go informal, or if they do vote, they'll just vote one of the 2 parties.
And sadly, it's only going to get worse. About 3 months ago, Liberal and Labor joined forces to pass the Snouts in the Trough bill. Oh wait, sorry, it's got a much more innocuous name. It's called the Electoral Reform Bill. Essentially, they voted to give themselves a 49% funding pay rise that kicks in on July 2026, where they'll get $5 per vote instead of the current $3.35, further ensuring that you hear their advertising from dawn till dusk in the weeks before the election. And if that wasn't enough, LibLab voted to receive extra administrative funding before the elections. $90,000 per House MP and $45,000 for a sitting senator. The Australia Institute estimates that LibLab will collectively receive $12.8 million in advance, giving them a massive head start and further entrenching incumbents. That's why Jackie Lambie proposed this bill be renamed the Snouts in the Trough Bill, and the minor parties and independents opposed the bill. It was only LibLab that voted in favour of, well, giving themselves more of your money. But perhaps you like the idea of fully funded taxpayer election campaigns because it keeps out private donations that could influence the outcome. If that's the case, then you want to vote for one of these parties who support taxpayer-funded political advertising. Or maybe you hate the idea of even $1 of your money going towards that party that you hate, and you want politicians to have to earn your donation. If that's the case, then you want to vote for one of these parties that want zero taxpayer funding for political advertising. If you don't see your favorite party, I didn't find any information that indicated one way or the other, but feel free to tell me in the comments if you know something and I'll pin a correction. Me personally, I don't think taxpayers should be funding private corporations' smear campaigns. I hate the way politics is done in this country. Don't get me wrong, it's way better than other countries, but there is another country that I think does a few things even better, and I wonder what you all think. In New Zealand, there is a strict media blackout on the day of the election. All political advertising, TV, radio, newspaper, billboards, everything must stop the day of the election. So while Australia's election day looks a lot like a junk mail explosion at every polling booth, New Zealand's election looks calm and quiet, with time to consider your options. There is also a strict legally enforced spending limit depending on the type of election. $1.4 million per party plus $32,000 per candidate, which is still a lot, but at least it's not an unlimited advertising arms race. Normally, I'm not in favour of telling people where they can or can't spend their money, but in this instance, it sounds pretty nice to not be bombarded with political advertising every day of the week. They also don't have mandatory voting, which I think not only solves the problem of apathetic voters determining the outcome of the election, but I think it's a more principled position that I can get behind. How can we call ourselves a free country when our government forces us to vote? You're not free if you're compelled to do something. And not voting is a protest vote, which counts in my mind. You might be worried that voter turnout would decrease, but New Zealand's voter turnout sits at 80%. Australia's is at 90% and dropping despite the fines. And I think there is a message to be heard here. People have lost faith in the system and don't think it's worth participating. That's not my position, but I can understand it. And if you feel that the system is broken and you don't want to participate, I don't think you should be forced to. If you think voting should be voluntary, consider voting for one of these parties. And if you like compulsory voting, then think of these guys. And if you still haven't voted, check out this video by Ozpol Explained, where he breaks down all of the parties in a quick and unbiased manner. All the parties are in chapters, so you can skip to the ones that you want to know about. You were born free. Except on voting day, then you have to do it or pay a fine.